2, drink water. Don't drink and drive.
Game over!
Take it light. Okay.
Now you're more fluent.
Makina, he's got 3!
Up, Bears. So this is really good right here. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Hello, welcome everybody to the Creator Hour. This is Orry from Hoop Social here on the Sports Fluent Network on YouTube. We are super excited to be here. I have a very special guest. You may know him via TikTok. His name is Possible Chairs, aka Aaron Schroeder. I am very excited to talk with him later about all the recent developments in the NBA and naturally the most important development, that is the Boston Celtics winning the NBA championship in a gentleman's sweep that, crazily enough, not many people predicted. With hindsight, I know we can all go back and be like, well, sure, it was a 1 seed versus a 5 seed. This shouldn't have happened, yada yada. But the way that the Mavericks were so dominant and played so well and were so hot up until this point, that was an impressive 5-game victory by all accords, in my opinion. What the Boston Celtics have done is already started to create 2 very different conversations in the media. I'm sure you've heard the narrative being spun now that this is the makings of a dynasty. This is all of a sudden, all the pieces are in place. Brad Stevens has done such an incredible job of orchestrating this team, and now we have all the pieces to run it back and continue this string of dominance. This kind of a new narrative, mind you, considering it wasn't very long ago that we were just discussing whether these guys could do it in their consistency levels. But nonetheless, that's one of the new narratives that is now being out there. The next narrative that seems to be popular is the diminishing of the season, the weak Eastern Conference, the weak opponents in the Eastern Conference playoffs, the injuries, that they avoided star players, that this was just the simplest path possible, and the Celtics didn't face any adversity. And though there are compelling pieces there, I still have to remind you that the Celtics didn't play with their food much either. You look at some of the numbers and you look at what this team has accomplished, regular season and playoffs, and it's fascinating that we still seem to have these feelings about this team not being so good. And the rarefied air that they're in, this net rating, people are fascinated with a net rating for a team. Obviously, when you are trying to determine good, better, and best, net rating is not an all-encompassing statistic, but it does help you decide, how this team fared against their peers, right? And the Celtics had the 5th best net rating, including the playoffs, of all time, with a 10.7 of all time. The teams that are in that conversation are teams like, the Golden State Warriors, like the 86 Celtics, teams that are viewed as greatest teams of all time. And I'm not by any means going to be the person that puts this team into those conversations. But I think it's important that we don't hold too much against this squad, because yes, maybe the ball bounced in their way in many different fashions, but the NBA, that basketball is a game of luck as well. We all know it's a game of attrition. It's a game of things going your way, injuries not happening when it's crucial. Making sure that everything lines up in order to finish the season on top. There are so many things that have to go right, and have so many things go right and dominate the way that they have. and dominate in the playoffs the way that they have, it does say something special about this team. What kind of conversations they belong in, we're going to need more hindsight. We're going to need more time to truly have those conversations. That, but people are going to want to put them into places that I'm not sure whether they belong or not, strictly based on certain factors. And one of those factors to me is parity. I think people would tend to agree that we're living in the most talented league of all time, top to bottom. And for a team to be this strong, you know, they were 15 wins more than any other team. Once again, playoffs included. 15 wins more. There have been 6 teams in NBA history to do that. 6 total teams in NBA history to accomplish that goal. That's something, especially in such a strong league. So I don't know. I'm biased. Everyone knows it. I got my Celtics hat on. I'm an unashamed, unabashed Celtics fan, but I do my best to try to be as objective as possible. And with this Celtics squad, I'm going to need a little help. That's why I got somebody like Possible Chairs on, somebody that really is fascinated by NBA history and where people and places and legacies and where things kind of line up. I wanted to get his perspective on this Celtics squad. So that is going to be my segue into bringing on Possible Chairs, aka Aaron Schroeder. Aaron, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you on, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, excellent. You heard my little spiel maybe about the Celtics. This team, by all accounts, is a juggernaut, but we're going to have a hard time calling them that. What are your feelings about this Celtics squad?
They were such a hard team to gauge, I felt like, because they dominated the regular season in historic fashion, and they dominated the playoffs in historic fashion. But I feel like we all kind of left feeling that they never were challenged in the Eastern Conference. You really wanted to see them at least play a good team, maybe a good team without injured players, but even the mediocre teams they played, their best players got hurt. And so they kind of just got a bye to the finals. I think you have to look at that as this is still one of the 20 or so best teams ever. Like you can't look at the net rating, you can't look at their accomplishments and say that's not true necessarily. But they're kind of they're less convincing in a way where I feel like they're like the 04 Pistons, like supercharged. They're more like the 89 Pistons, like the 2014 Spurs vein of basketball. The numbers tell you they should be a top 5 team of all time. I do feel like what separates them from like the top 10 or so is those 10 teams were more like the best player in the world with an elite team around them. I think that's a very special kind of team where, I mean, I don't think anyone on God's green earth is going to argue that Tatum is the best player in the world. He's very, very good, but he falls outside of that category. And so it's a dominant team, but just a very unique experience.
I tend to agree with that. I think that that's a fair sentiment. Now, to switch gears completely, this is the Creator Hour, and we are lucky enough to have you on. So I want to know a little bit about your story. One of the things we do here is pick the minds of NBA content creators and try to get to know their journey a little bit and kind of what makes them tick. So the first question I tend to ask, what started this process? And give us a little insight in your journey to content creatordom.
Man, it's been a long one. Not all too long compared to some other people, but I feel like it was a couple years ago at this point, probably close to like 2022-ish, like early 2022. And I've been obsessed with basketball for a long time and going on like like the NBA subreddit every day and being in those circles and seeing that all the time. And then getting TikTok, I'm like, I think I could make some of these. And honestly, it just started with just like me and like a lamp I had gotten. Like I didn't have like a ring light or anything. It's just me and a lamp. There's no green screen behind me. And I was doing like the Instagram filter, like picking this player's best team or this team's best player. Or like let's make a Hall of Fame roster or something. Like just those videos. and people kind of liked it, like just a bit. I ended up sitting down with my brother and saying like, what if we could do like the 75 best players? Because the 75th anniversary had just happened. Like, could we order these guys? And I made some list with a bunch of mistakes on it. And looking back on it, wasn't good. People really liked that list though, that series. And like the lighting's weird, I sound weird, I'm way too close to the camera. I have no idea what people were watching, but it was really popular. And I took that and did these redrafts, like redrafting the 2014 draft class, got a couple million views. I said it was a bad draft class. People said it wasn't. I think it's ridiculous. Draft class sucks. But going from that, eventually, I think I've just fallen deeper and deeper into this. Well, how good were these guys really? Like just whole of ranking players, of ordering this list. Me and my friend Nate from Hoops Temple sitting down together and working on that. It's trying to make like, can we do a top 500 players? Like, how deep can we go into this and actually do it well? Because a list that far and that deep really hasn't been done successfully.
And I shout out Nate from Hoops Temple, 100%. You guys do a lot of great work, and I absolutely love him. He's been on the show as well. Yeah, like what now, if you didn't have these platforms, is this something that you would do anyways? You mentioned the subreddits and always constantly kind of like what stirred that love for the NBA before any of this stuff was really even on your mind when it comes to creating content?
I just like basketball. I think I got into the NBA starting in like 7th or 8th grade. I didn't really like it wasn't a lifelong thing. I'd gone to Kings games as a kid. I'd been to Arc Arena and I'd seen the early DeMarcus Cousins teams. And so I mean I used to watch with my dad and stuff like that and really get into the sports that way. Yeah, I feel like it kind of I think the where I am now started with the content creation. Like it wasn't like I was obsessed with it beforehand because I really wasn't. I think it almost happened. I just liked basketball, ended up making content, and like the response to the content caused me to like delve deeper. If I didn't have a platform, I think I'd be in an insane asylum, just like writing lists on the wall. Guys in the white van and white coats come pick me up and like, hey buddy, you doing okay? Like top
Right,
100 point guards ever, man. Like, are you feeling all right? But
you'd be a beautiful mind, but just the NBA edition. Yeah, that's wonderful. I feel that way sometimes. When I feel the best benefit to this show is finding so many kindred spirits because I used to have so many notebooks of just stats and all this type of stuff, and then you talk to some of you guys, and it's like, oh my goodness, these people are just as crazy as I am, if not more. It's like I totally feel validated. Do you feel like meeting other content creators and like minds has given you a level of validation for what you do?
yeah, sure. Absolutely. I feel like it goes both ways where I'll see new accounts pop up in their ranking players and top 10 this and top 10 that. And they're very similar lists to like what I did initially. I can almost see people go through the same process as me. Starting off with, a great example is like Reggie Miller is the 5th best shooting guard ever. It's like way too high. Like, I said that too. I get it. I've been there. Right. But then you also find people, and I'm like, that dude's insane. Like these are like insanely knowledgeable people, way out of my league. And it just there's a real scale to it. But I feel good to be a part of the community. I feel like I'm a positive influence on the community. I appreciate that. My videos are civil and the comment sections are fairly kind.
That's and see, that's something that I appreciate, and one of the reasons that I felt it's important to get you on here and spread the word about your account, because I feel like you have not only the ability to articulate thoughts for everybody to understand them. I feel like you take a lot of high level concepts and make them understandable to the casual fan, and that's a tricky thing to do. Do with the popularity that's come from all of this, though. I mean, how do you feel knowing so many people appreciate what you do?
That's great. And I absolutely love it. I feel like what makes it so special, what makes it so much fun is the interaction. I don't make lists because I want to. I make lists because I want to share it with other people. And so that engagement the comments, the conversations that I have, because I read all my comments and I go through them all. Um, to have that, I think is what makes it worthwhile. And I've got, getting a comment that just says, "Hey man, nice job. Like really love your content." Like that, that'll buy you another year of me doing this. I mean, I can't. That's what makes it so special.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful. I'm glad that you're able to find, your passion and spread it to other people, and then have that once again rekindle your passion. So it makes it into a very, cyclical type of deal. Now, you're a Sacramento Kings fan. I'm going to say this out loud. If people aren't aware and don't follow you, Possible Chairs, Aaron Schroeder is a Sacramento Kings fan. They do exist. They are real, and they've been through some trouble. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about how you. I know you're from the area, but I mean, how's it been being a Sacramento Kings fan and kind of growing up with that team? Some of your favorite moments, things like that.
It's fine. It's pretty good. They are a sports team next to me. I think the biggest thing is I mean, even today, like from when I was a child and today, like my household gets the newspaper because it's 1980 over here, man. And the newspaper is the sports section. So I'm always like, it's the Sacramento Bee. It's a fairly big news stuff, like King stuff. And I'm disconnected. Am I in?
Oh, there
um,
you go.
the front page is always King stuff, and so I've been connected in that way, and I've been to the Kings games and seen DeMarcus Cousins play, and kind of got into it like that. I've been to Arc Arena a couple times. I'm 23 years old, and so a lot of that stuff is. I'm trying to think when they got the new arena, like 2016 or 17 or something. But um, we've owned my family's own not season tickets, but you can buy like packages of 20 games, 30 games or something. So I usually go to 5 games a year or something. But that's kind of what that process has been like. I'd love to win some games. I've been happy with the recent product at least. But yeah,
Yeah.
lot of years of a lot of bad basketball. And you say favorite moments, like I don't know. There's no favorite. Like I don't look back on any of those years and be like, whoa, like super cool. I liked watching Buddy Hield catch fire. Watching with my family, watching those games on TV with my dad before they blocked them out on the national stuff.
I,
I thought, but it's a bummer because that's like my favorite part. Watching the games with my dad and family. Buddy Hield catches fire on like that 2019 team, and now he hates us. Buddy Hield like hates Sacramento. I'm like, damn, dude, that's like the one player I kind of liked.
yeah, that's I didn't realize I was asking such a difficult question. My favorite Kings moment, but
Can
hindsight,
you name
I,
me? I
I
can
can
name you
see
a moment,
that
maybe favorite moment.
right. That Tyreek Evans three that one time.
Yeah, I remember the full court one,
That's
the full
funny.
court game winner. I had a friend who was there. Um, I'll tell you the best Kings game I've ever been to. I was under, the Kevin Herter game winner against Utah last season, like the crazy crowd pop. Does that ring any bells?
Oh yes,
It's
yes,
a
I
good
do.
one. It's
I
a
do
good,
remember that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I was underneath the basket when he shot that. The one he
Oh,
made it on. I was underneath that basket. Very cool.
oh,
I almost hurt myself jumping up and down.
that is there we go. That's awesome. That's one of those moments that you can't capture unless you're at the stadium. So that's really cool.
I also got to see it was against the Jazz again a couple years ago. Um, I don't even remember what this iteration of the Jazz was, but someone had missed like a game-winning shot in overtime, and Gobert tipped it in to beat us. So I watched a Rudy Gobert overtime game winner against the Kings. That took a while to regain my strength after that one.
That's cringe. I sad that that's to be one of the ones that sticks with you too. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, now Rudy Gobert. That's something I can use as a transition. See, Rudy Gobert played for the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves underperformed against the Mavericks. Dude, silly question that everyone seems to be asking immediately, just with this kind of now that we know how things turned out. Do you think Minnesota would have been a better matchup for Boston?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think Dallas was able to get really crazy hot. PJ Washington had a great series. Kyrie Irving had a great series. They got over the Wolves in a way I wasn't expecting. But I think with Minnesota's athleticism, with their size, I think they would have been a better matchup for Boston for sure. I mean, I think the thing like Luca got torched defensively. He had a really bad defensive finals. I think that was a combo of one. He's already not a great defender, but he has made strides recently. I would say this season he was an average defender, but then getting injured over and over. It's the fourth round of the playoffs. You've been backpacking the Mavs for 4 straight rounds. And now it's just you can't say from anybody against Minnesota. That's fine because they have one player that can take you off the dribble, and Anthony Edwards. Like his cat's not doing it, Conley's not doing it, but Boston has 5 dudes who could do it, right?
Yeah.
Even Kristaps in moments, and so they could at any point go at Luca, where I don't think Minnesota could.
Very true. Fair enough. Fair enough. I heard that narrative kind of creeping around recently, and I had to think about it. It's like, yeah, I mean, Tad, I mean, the pieces that Minnesota had, I mean, the Mavericks caught lightning in a bottle, for lack of a better way of putting it, it seemed, and just had a perfect storm to kind of cruise through and beat the Western Conference opponents that they did. With the season being over, should we view the Mavericks as a team that overachieved and really be more excited about what they did?
They totally overachieved, and I think they will be a threat to reach the finals again. They obviously are very talented. I think they've done an excellent job building around Luca. They have a secondary offensive creator in Kyrie. They have size and shooting and defense, everything to make up for Luca's weaknesses. I think it's something for Dallas fans to think about, or just NBA fans in general. If you're gonna try to patch weaknesses you saw, it's like, oh, like he has no help. He needs more offensive creation. Maybe, but you're gonna cause other issues. Because I think the great defense that Dallas had was a huge catalyst for this run. So don't try to fix other problems and create more issues. For next season, I think they'll be about as good, but it's going to take another really hot run to make the finals again. I don't think this is the start of something. I don't think next season's going to be better necessarily for Dallas.
Okay, now that's important because that kind of led me to my next question. I wasn't sure if you see Dallas as a team that could just reload and be right back in the picture, or are there going to be some crucial elements that really need to be readjusted for them to contend again?
I don't think they have to reload to contend again because I think they're still contenders. I think the Western Conference is going to have most of the contenders given health, but I think Dallas's issues kind of stemmed from at any given moment they had 2 to 3 complete non-scorers that just not even great shooters, like non-factors offensively. And if you can, I know I said don't try to fix problems and create other ones, but that should be an area because if you're going to play Boston, which is good, they're going to be together, the same team next season. If you're going to play a new OKC team or a better Wolves team, you're going to run into, well, we need more offensive creation outside these two guys. Because come playoff time, you can't just hone in on Luca, on Kyrie. Kyrie had a shitty finals. He was awful. He was really bad. He had a great game. I think game 3, he had like 30 or something, 35.
Yeah, 35.
He had one good game, but he was just complete non-factor. And you can't have your tough shot making, like offensive creator be a zero offensively, because then that's a real problem. And so I don't think any of this run or why they lost was Luka's fault at all. I just think they'll run it back and be about as good as they were this year.
And now it's funny you mentioned that it's not Luka's fault. The narrative that I kept hearing from sports media was, though, it's his lack of defense 100%. And the fact that he's not a two-way player is why the Mavericks stood no chance, because they could just pick on Luka. You mentioned that he was kind of an average defender in the regular season. Is Luka's defense the difference between Dallas winning a title or not, though?
Well, if you transform him into Michael Jordan, maybe. But it's not going to happen. I think of all the reasons they lost the finals, like Luka's defense just, It's not his fault. I think you get to the point like I said, he was injured, he's tired, he's dragged the Mavs around. Here's a team that can go at him with all 5 guys. Like this is going to be a problem. I just don't think the Mavs were good enough. I don't think there's a Luka defense aspect that makes them able to beat.
Yeah, I would tend to
Actually, the
agree with
series.
that.
I thought Luka was going to be the best player. That he was going to be the best player in that series, but I still think he was. But I thought it'd be to the extent that would open up Kyrie Irving. But instead, Kyrie Irving was just not even present. I mean, I think I saw a tweet earlier. This as an account. No one commented on it. It's a great account. I wish I remember the name. Using like stats and on-off metrics, say these are the best players in the finals, and it was Luka, and then the Celtics starting 5, and then Kyrie. And I think that's exactly how the series went. Is Dallas had the best player, Boston had the next 5, and then it's whatever. At that point, the series is over.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, that the Celtics depth, that starting 5 shows things. I mean, they gave the Finals MVP to Jaylen Brown. They could have given it to the Celtics backcourt, and I wouldn't have been mad if they just decided to be co-MVPs one year. Hey, you know what? It's Derek White and Drew Holiday, sure. And speaking of Finals MVP, Jaylen Brown did pull it out. Naturally, everybody wants to argue about it. I think it was the appropriate selection, despite Jason Tatum having a great closeout game. Do you think the NBA? Do you think that this was the right call?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the right call for Finals MVP. Jaylen Brown. I think it tells the right story too, because Brown was better throughout the first 3 rounds as well. He was better in the conference finals. He won Eastern Conference MVP. So you get to the finals. And I think the big thing is Jason Tatum opened up this series. He couldn't put the ball in the basket at all. Shot like 35% the first 2 games. He was miserable. I think in previous years, the Celtics lose those 2 games and lose the series. But I think the difference was Jaylen Brown was much better this season. And he was able to have big games, hit big shots. They win those first 2 games instead of losing them because Tatum disappears. And I think that was the right Finals MVP. I mean, Tatum had a great closeout game. I thought Jaylen Brown was good as well, but Brown had the big games. He had the big shots. He was Finals MVP to me.
Absolutely, he definitely deserved it. And the animosity and the situation that the media keeps trying to create between Tatum and Brown. I know this will get people talking more just because Tatum didn't get it. Do you think that this matters to these guys in any sort of way, or do you think winning is just the remedy for all?
Winning is the remedy for all. It always is. And the fact they've stayed together for so long, I think proves that they really don't care. The only thing that got to them is when Brown's name was being floated around in trade talks. But I don't think they ever had any animosity towards each other at all.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of those things that people want them to be Westbrook and Durant, or one of these duos that maybe started to tiff. And what we really have a likable, marketable duo in my eyes. Would you tend to agree?
I think they're a fantastic duo. I mean, I think they're basically the best duo in the NBA. Possibly, right? Maybe. That's
Wait,
actually a good
you said
question.
it. You said it. We need to
Maybe.
determine, is this the best duo in the NBA right now?
It was LeBron and Davis, and there's Jokic and Murray, and I'm trying to think of any other options.
For competing for best, I
They had
mean,
the best season.
Giannis and Dame were so disappointing that I
Yeah.
would put them there.
Yeah, I mean Dame was pretty. I guess it is kind of cheating. You could just say, hey, the best player in the world, the second best player in the world, Jokic and Giannis and whoever. But I think those guys
Right.
had the best. That duo had the best season. I guess I guess best duo is probably ever shooting it, but is Jaylen Brown's probably the best out of them. I don't know. I think I opened a can of worms I wasn't ready for.
I know, right? Yeah, let's pump the brakes maybe too.
Yeah,
I mean, Jalen
too
did.
much, too far. Got ahead of myself.
It's funny because Jalen is such a high quality ambassador for the league. I was so happy for him and so stoked to see him perform really well and kind of get his due, get his flowers. I mean, it's kind of crazy to say that about a 27-year-old guy, but I mean, what were your sentiments when Jaylen Brown kind of showed the naysayers wrong and got both the Eastern Conference Finals and Finals MVP?
I mean, like I said, I think he was the difference. Drew Holiday has been great, and Kristaps and Derek White, and they made changes. I still think the teams they surrounded Jalen, those groups, like those were good teams. I think the difference was Tatum is a superstar and Jaylen Brown's a legitimate star. Like I think he showed that he can be a second option that rises to the biggest stages as a first option occasionally when it really matters. And I think for Jaylen,
So
I mean, he's been in the league. It's like 2016 draft, right? It's been a really long time, and it's been pretty cool to see.
yeah, so with that, I mean, that piece, that Jaylen Brown's 27 years old. Could he still get tickets to Club Superstar?
What is that?
That's Nick Wright's. All the he only allows like 12 guys in per year.
Oh,
And
clubs. Gotcha.
yeah. So it's one of those
No,
things where I
then
wasn't
no.
sure if Brown could ever project to be that superstar type of level that we expect Tatum, to maintain,
Yeah, I don't
or if
think
he's
so.
always
I
going
mean,
to be a
Jalen
second
Brown's
fiddle.
very good.
Okay.
Heading into this season, I think we had kind of projected what Tatum is top 5, like he's like number 5 or number 6 ish, right? And then Brown is like closer to like top 30, top 25. Like that's where we're going. But I think now it's more like Tatum is top 10 and Brown is closer to top 20. Like we're getting closer together for that. But I don't think you'll ever see Jaylen Brown. I mean, he wasn't even all NBA this season. He's not going to, I don't think he's going to be all NBA next season. I think he'll be about as good as he was this year. I think this is the start of something for Boston. They're going to be the title favorites next season. They should win the championship again. But I don't think Jaylen Brown's going to develop into something. I mean, what is it, year 9 or something, year 8? It's been a while.
Fair enough. Now the dynasty piece you mentioned, that was something I wanted to touch on. The pieces seem to be in place. Brad Stevens has done a heck of a job with this organization and putting, who needs to be in place. Dynasty is a tough standard, though. I'm not sure what your standard is for Dynasty, but for me, I'm thinking at least 3 championships out of 5, maybe 3 out of 6, maybe a little more than that. How do you project these Celtics?
They should be great. I think the Al Horford piece is interesting. Are they going to retain him next season? Will he retire? Can Kristaps stay healthy? Like there are question marks. The other thing was Drew Holiday's contract, just a massive deal that I don't think was a good idea. I'm not sure who else was going to give him $37 billion when he was 37, 38 years old. So there's that piece where you're probably going to be paying Drew Holiday, who will not be that good in 3 years, that much money. But Tatum is 26, Brown is 27, Derek White is 29, and they'll extend him as well. I mean, they will be a contender like they have been the past couple of years.
Do you see any teams in the East rising to the top? To Embiid mentioned that the Celtics had it easy. Was Embiid telling the truth? Did the Celtics have it real easy? Are there going to be some other guys that really come back up to punch them in the mouth? Or are the Celtics just really that good that we might just see them dominate the East for a couple of years?
I think it's a combo of both. The Celtics were that good and it was easy. But I mean, Joel Embiid made it easy. He helped them by being injured all the time. I think with Embiid, he's going to be hurt. He's going to be hurt come playoff time. You're going to get to the first round. He's going to have a sprained ankle. His toes be bugging him. He's going to have back spasms. He's going to have some neurological condition that causes him to pass out when he sees his own shadow. There's going to be the long list of medical conditions that are going to infect Joel Embiid. And so if he wants to sit there and say, well, Boston had it easy, I'd rather him just be healthy, focus on that. The one team I do think that can challenge Boston is going to be Philly, though, because they have a total blank slate. They have Embiid, they have Maxey, and then it's Is it Paul George? Is it going to be LeBron James? Could this, like, what could this be? That's the ceiling I'm interested in following. But I mean, if you're going to give Tobias Harris more money, if you're going to give another one of those contracts, an Al Horford contract, those mistakes that have held the Sixers back over the years. But I think they're the one team with a legitimate shot because they get to basically rebuild it all this offseason.
I like that. I like that. That's interesting because I like how you mentioned the blank slate in Philly, because it does seem to me that they want to create something new with their main pieces. And yeah, the Paul George stuff intrigues me. The money, sending Paul George a max, this late, or Jimmy Butler. I heard that conversation, getting a max. Like, Philly's probably going to screw it up some way or the other, but now,
yeah, almost certainly
yeah.
with especially Paul George. They went on TV. They were one of the finals games. Embiid and Paul George did the pregame, and Embiid's like, "Wink, wink. We need to make our team better." 34-year-old Paul George right next to me. I mean, if you're assembling the all-star team of untimely playoff injuries and bad playoff moments the last 10 years, like, you'd start it with Paul George and Joel Embiid. I just
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
how old they get is going to drive a lot. Is going to drive a lot of stars just crazy. And Paul George came out earlier today and said, "I just want to play the right brand of basketball." I think he read a book on players that have played with James Harden and then fucking hated it. And that's just like this big of a book of just guy after guy being like, "Man, that really sucked. Like, I didn't like that very much." I'm curious to see what they end up doing, but
Yeah, that should be a heck of a journey, a heck of a process. My bad. Now, the other side of things, the West was crazy. The Mavericks made a run. Nobody expected them to make this run. We talked about them earlier. For the other guys in the West, the Denvers, the Timberwolves, the guys that we expect to be the big fish. Which teams intrigue you the most? Which, when it comes to when they come back next year?
I think it should be Denver. I think it should be Denver, right? I mean, with Jokic is probably still the best player in basketball. Minnesota just played them beautifully. They basically just took out Jamal Murray and took out Michael Porter Jr. in such an intense way. But Jokic is still going to average 30 and 12 with 8 assists, like every playoff series, no matter what you try to do. I'm still really shocked that Minnesota beat them. I just don't think I don't think Denver was anticipating that level of play at all. I also think Anthony Edwards just got really, really hot. This offseason will be important for them. Will they find a backup center? That's not DeAndre Jordan. Like, can they get someone that might be able to guard Ant a little bit? Like, what are they doing at KCP? There are lots of questions that are following them around, but I think if I had to pick, like, who's winning the title or who's coming out of the West next year, coming out of the West, I would pick Denver again.
High hopes for Denver. That's interesting. Do you think there's any sort of piece that they have to bring in to change up anything? Or is that Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic combination still super effective? It just kind of ran into a chainsaw for a moment.
I'd be interested to see if they could get off the Michael Porter Jr. contract. I'm trying to see how long that is.
No, it's a good call.
Because it's massive, just this ridiculous contract for a pretty good player. He fits in really well with what they do. The spot up shooting is just so good at his height. He's making 35 next year, 38th and 40. It's a huge contract. Can you break that up into pieces? Because I feel like depth is kind of the new hot thing, the new cool thing. Like, what's the best starting 5 you can put out? And Phoenix didn't get the memo on that one. Phoenix is off just losing their minds over Bradley Beal. But I think depth is the right piece. What can you get for Michael Porter Jr.? Can you flip him into picks and 2 players? And I think that might be better for what Denver's trying to do.
Yeah, that's interesting because MPJ is such a unique guy. Like he's a a very good spot-up shooter. Like you said, his height makes him tremendously difficult to guard. Um, he's kind of a black hole because when he touches the ball that he's shooting it. I think he averages like 1 assist. But a lot of teams could use that. So, yeah, I'm very intrigued by the MPJ piece. Now, what do you think about like Aaron Gordon, somebody like that? Is he still going to be key to their future, or is he kind of a piece that may be turned into something else also?
I think he's crucial. I think he's like
Yeah.
the piece on their defensive front court. I think he's what maintains their defensive flexibility. A huge part of how they make up for the fact that Jokic is a below average rim protector. His ability to guard all different positions and also just be such an amazing lob threat and such a great guy around the basket. I mean, he makes Denver's close range offense really, really dangerous. And you got to hang on to him. But I do think Porter Jr. is the piece that's probably expendable.
Okay, fair enough. Now, when we move down the line a little bit, we got kind of the guys in the next category, the Clippers of the world and the Lakers. I didn't mean to put them in the same category, but people will get mad about that. But they're kind of in that next couple tiers down. LA, what's going on for either of these franchises? First and foremost, which one would you rather be in charge of right now? And which one has the brighter future moving forward?
Sorry, which one I'd be in charge of and which one I'd rather what? The second half of the
Sorry,
question cut out.
no,
It's
it's
on my
okay.
end. No, it's on my end.
It's all good. It was out of the Clippers and Lakers, which one would you rather be in charge of, and which one do you think has the brighter future?
The brighter future. The brighter future is the Clippers because they're well run. They're a well run team. They have a front office that cares. Like they're smart. I mean, I think the Lakers are just not the worst run team in basketball, but I think getting LeBron has covered up the fact they probably are. They probably are that with all the talent they've had. I mean, the Lakers don't have a coach right now. Ask you who I'd rather be. I had to hire a coach first, and my options are JJ Redick, who I do not think is a very good coach. But I don't think hiring a first-time coach is a bad idea. I mean, LeBron might as well walk around with his hand up JJ's ass, just puppeting him around, be less transparent what's going on. I understand, like I get that process. It does feel like every single client or every single candidate they bring in for a coach is like, how bad can LeBron just maneuver this guy around? For the Clippers, you have players that are getting older and hurt and are under contract for a while. They gave quiet extension. That's probably going to look bad. He literally cannot stay healthy come playoff time. For the Lakers, though, I do look forward to what I call the shit shuffle. I need to make like t-shirts with it on. It's when they take all their shitty role players that they surround around LeBron and AD and they get rid of them and they bring in all these other shitty role players, like these side projects, Christian Wood, holy shit, it's Dwight Howard, and like make it, and it's like, oh, look at this, we're gonna fix this guy. Like, could Christian Wood make an all-star team? We do that again. So I look forward to that because they'll do it again. What the Lakers do is they bring in so many one-sided players, one-dimensional players.
Yes.
I'm blanking on the guy's name. Cam Reddish. Who's the other? Jared Vanderbilt, right? Or is it?
Yes,
Yeah,
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt is
Reddish.
the worst offensive player in basketball, but he can play good defense, right? And so when these Lakers get him, they're like, "Oh, this guy's a great defensive player." Like, yeah, but you're gonna lose every minute he's on the floor because he can't play offense. And so getting guys that are at least a little versatile instead of just like, hey, the best 2-point shooter, these specialists, this one-sided defensive player. Like the Lakers just need more depth because they can't go another season just relying on LeBron over and over and over.
That's so great. The shit shuffle. I swear, this offseason, or last offseason, I guess, when they acquired all those pieces, the Christian Wood, and people were losing their mind and hopping on that hype train. Like, look at what we just got. We just got Christian Wood. It's like, guys, like there are reasons that these players are available at these prices. Like, what do you? I don't know. And then JJ Redick is a whole other category altogether. I mean, not only a first-time coach, like you said, but 100% we see the LeBron James time and they do a show together, how are you not supposed to feel like you said, like LeBron is calling every shot? That's not going to go over well for a team, I imagine, even despite his quote unquote leadership. So, yeah, the Lakers are a strange situation. I wouldn't want to be involved with that organization one bit. Clippers, slightly better, yes. Um, maybe the brighter future, sure. Whether either of these teams does anything next season, I mean, do you see either of these squads being contenders or even close?
No, I mean the Clippers, yes, probably yes, because if they have Kawhi, if they have, if they get Paul George back, if Harden's still there, they'll be a talented enough team where you have to at least think about it. But it's the same thing with Embiid. Like Kawhi Leonard just doesn't finish the seasons. That's not an if; it's a when. He's going to get injured. It's happened season after season after season. That's just part of what happens when you have Kawhi Leonard on your team. And so I think at their ceiling, the Clippers are much better. The Lakers, weirdly enough, were healthy last year. Like LeBron Davis were healthy. They're just not good enough. Even as that Lakers team with their absolute best still got swept. And I feel like they played it literally perfect against Denver. They played 3 perfect halves, the first half of each 3 games. But you can't hang on against a team that they're so outmatched for.
Exactly, 100%. I mean, I thought the same thing, that LA didn't look bad for great portions, and yeah, it's just you knew they were outmatched top to bottom. Um, not to get on a completely new form here, but when it comes to like the up and comers now in the conferences, what are some teams that you think started to show signs of life and may have a lot to build on in the upcoming seasons?
I think the Pacers are the big one. I think the Pacers, actually, the winner of the finals is the Pacers because they actually had really good games against the Boston in the conference finals with or without Halliburton, and they gave Siakam the extension. It's a lot of money for what Siakam is, but he's still really good. Had some really great playoff games, and I think the Pacers again like have a clean slate. Thinking about their contract situation, I'm pretty sure like it's just Halliburton and now Siakam. Let me see Pacers contracts. And so they have very similar to Philly. I think we're gonna look back on this and say which one of these guys had the better offseason. Yeah, because next year it's Turner, McConnell, Mathurin, Halliburton, Walker, Neesmith, and like their bench guys like Nemhart, but they have a ton of cap space. They're gonna get like Doug McDermott off the books, and like they have a good talented team and cap space to work with. So I think they're my Eastern Conference pick. I'd have to look at the Western Conference. I mean, the Western Conference is probably Houston, right? Houston caught fire towards the
Yeah,
end, of last
Houston.
season.
Everyone's been seeming. I'm not sure what to feel about Jalen Green yet, 100%. But
Mhm.
Houston does seem to be probably the popular pick. I mean, are you sold on Houston? Do you think Ime Udoka can lead that team to something more than a play-in?
I mean, the Western Conference is brutal. I'm not gonna say they're a top 6 seed, but without Şengün, they were winning games. With Şengün, I assume they'll be better. It's hard to tell because a lot of the Rockets stuff was they were playing bad opponents. Maybe their defense got better for a brief stretch because Şengün is hurt. I still think the ceiling would be higher if you have Şengün. Biggest pieces they pick another first round on top of that. So they have these picks. Can you leverage that into something else? They feel like a team that has 11 guys, about to be like 13 guys who I'd really like to see play. And I think they would like to see play, but you have to consolidate. How can we make this an 8-man rotation, a 7-man rotation?
Sure. And I do like some of those guys. I mean, Jabari Smith Jr. is fun. I mean, say what you will about Ime Udoka, scandal wise, whatever. I don't care. He does seem to be a good coach.
Great
So I mean,
coach.
that's important. Yeah. So I mean, I think they're in the right hands and in the right projected momentum. Like they're going in the right direction. It may take a few more years, maybe in one more cornerstone piece. What teams do you feel are doing the opposites? Teams that maybe have to really look at this offseason hard because they're kind of stuck in mediocrityville. What teams do you expect should make some moves to really move the needle for them?
It's really tricky because I actually don't feel like any teams really are kind of stuck like they used to be because of
Sure.
the play-in. It's why I like the play-in so much. Um, I love the play-in because it incentivizes teams to build good basketball teams. And I think the biggest issue in the previous seasons, and everyone has seemingly forgotten about it, is that come like February, half the league was tanking. Like a third of the league was tanking. Because if you were in the 11th seed, it was over. Like you're not catching the 8th seed. You're 10 games back. But now you get the 10 seed. It's a whole different conversation. And so it's not that hard to be the 10 seed. And so you have a whole league where I think they're going to be trying to get better. And I think you're going to get teams like Chicago who knows they should tank, but won't. They're not going to do it. They're going to keep that core. They're going to 38 games next year like clockwork. I predicted them perfectly. I forget. I think they won 38. That's what I had said going into this season. That's a 38 win team. Nailed it. But the other one being the Nets, classic blow it up team, not very talented, need more picks, but they don't have their own picks. And so they're not a candidate to make these trades that would make sense for other situations. I think the big one is the Hawks. That's a real
Hawks.
blow it up team. That's depending on how they feel about Sarr. I saw they didn't even get a workout with him though, but excuse me.
No worries.
Is this Trey Young? Is this a DeJounte Murray team? I don't think they work together necessarily super well. So go ahead.
No, I agree 100%. I'm so glad you talked about the Hawks because, for better or worse, the Hawks are definitely one of the teams that I was talking about in that mediocrityville. I feel like they're one of the few teams that could blow it up, and it would make sense. I don't think those pieces go together at all.
I like Jalen Johnson. I
Yeah.
kind of it's interesting. I like Trey Young in a vacuum. Like he's talented, right? And they built a good team around him. They made a conference finals. It's possible, but this is just not the environment to do it. I think the DeJounte trade was really bad looking at it. It was really bad looking back on that because they don't even play on the floor together. It's not like they're like a duo. They just kind of exist at the same time. They just play each other's role, and it feels like they're copying each other. DeJounte's on the bench, and he's like, "Can't wait for my turn to jack up a shot." Man, Trey Young's out there having all the fun. He gets out there and he gets to take his bad shots. And had this been a better draft class, I think it's an obvious like either we have the first overall pick, let's go get somebody, make this something. But I just don't even know what the first overall pick could get you. I don't know what teams are asking for anymore. Could that be? Could they get Kyle Kuzma for that? Like, is that where the price tag is for the first overall pick? Because it's just a really bad draft.
Yeah, it is. It's been so hard to predict. I mean, we have a couple draft guys that I've been following and trying to just keep in the loop. And it's like, man, this definitely seems like one of the weaker ones in quite some time.
Oh, sure. But I love it, though. I'm a huge fan. I was sick of all the good drafts. The league deserved a real gritty, grimy. I want my first overall pick to be compared to Harrison Barnes. I want, like, this guy reminds me of Kemba Walker, but worse. Like, hell yeah, man. That's who I won the lottery. This is what I'm trying to build here.
You are all for it. I
I'm
love the
for it.
enthusiasm. That is excellent.
I'm sick of all
Somebody
the
has to be.
superstars, all the year one superstars. Back in my day, draft classes were bad. Drafts were bad. We had Anthony Bennett, and they had shitty for second overall picks like D'Angelo Russell, and it was good, and we liked it.
That's, you're 100% accurate. That sometimes a bad draft class develops a team's character. You have
That's
to
true.
have a couple of Anthony Bennett's to finally get your title.
Yeah. James Wiseman, man. I mean, Wiseman was a special kind of bust, though. I think that was pretty COVID related. Like I don't think they had the tape or the ability to see him like you would really like in normal draft class. But yeah, man, bring back draft bust, make draft bust great again.
Make draft bust great again. There we go. We said it today. We're pushing the agenda. Watch out. Starting in 2024. Oh man, we only got a few minutes left, so I do want to get a couple last minute predictions for next season. We kind of talked about everybody, but if you were to pick based on just no offseason moves, just based on what you think are going to be the better teams next season alone, top 4 teams you think in each conference. That's it.
Okay. Boston in the Eastern Conference. I think it should be Boston. But go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead. I was
Okay.
just finishing my thought. Yeah, go ahead.
Gotcha. Boston for the East, and I think we're just gonna go. We're gonna go Bucks. We have Giannis. Dame should be better. Should be more in shape than Philly. And then I don't really anticipate. I feel like that was kind of unnaturally great for them. I'll go Indiana. I'm gonna go Indiana.
All right.
I'm gonna go
We
Celtics,
talked them up.
Bucks, Sixers, Pacers.
I love it.
Western Conference. Western Conference will go Denver, Minnesota. OKC, I think, stays. The 4 seed was the Clippers this year. Don't see that repeating. Man, kind of a slippery slope because I don't think Phoenix is going to be much better next year. I don't think New Orleans will be. I feel like Dallas is the right pick. They were the 5 seed. It's so tricky because like the 5 seed Dallas was 50 wins and the 10 seed Warriors were 46 wins. But I don't really see Golden State getting 4 wins better. I don't really see Sacramento getting 4 wins better or the Lakers getting 3 wins better. I mean, Dallas just made the finals. If I'm picking record wise, it may be different, but overall, I think I'll go Dallas that 4th spot.
I like it. I like it. That seems to be, very appropriate, naturally, given what we've just seen. But I think those are definitely the cream of the crop. Indy is going to be the interesting one for sure.
Mhm.
But with the evolution of Halliburton and Siakam getting a full year under his plate in this deal, I like it a lot for sure. Now, when we run this whole thing, who do you think? Do you think the Celtics and the Nuggets are going to be the 2 favorites again for next season?
They should be. They should be. I think that's the right call, and Boston should be favored again.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect another 60-win type season for Boston, or do you think they'll become more of the we've done it now, let's save it for the playoffs?
I don't think that's going to be them at all. The I've done it now. I think they're going to win 60 games again. I feel like having lost so many conference finals, having lost in the finals before, I think they know more than anyone that's like you have to take this shit seriously the whole time. I think Drew Holiday is the champion. He's a professional. I think that's a good locker room, and I think they'll maintain like a certain standard of excellence.
Good. We need to, because I don't want any drop off. Now that we've tasted the top and tasted glory, I don't want to go back. All right, man. So we are approaching near the end of the show. This is the time where I want you to self-promote all as much as you want. Where are the best ways to get Possible Chairs material and to get material from you, Aaron Schroeder?
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, first of all. But you can find me on Possible Chairs on TikTok and Possible Chairs on Twitter. It's one word, Possible Chairs. If you space those words out, you get like chairs and stuff unrelated to normal chairs. Possible Chairs, one word. Also, Possible Chairs on my Patreon. Over 200 people on that, mostly for free. Lots of great free content. The top 100 point guards ever, top 100 shooting guards ever, top 300 players of all time. Those are free. The individual player deep dive write-ups, those are $3 a month. But hey, man, it really helps. Every bit helps. I really appreciate it. So thanks so much for having me.
You are completely welcome. And I want to throw out there, as we're finishing, anybody that follows me, Hoop Social, knows that I follow certain NBA TikTok accounts to get my stuff from, and you are one of those accounts. You are one of the accounts that helps me, brainstorm and go like, wow, I never thought about that this way. And so I just genuinely appreciate your outlook on the NBA and appreciate you bringing your game to the table, man. You are high quality material.
Thank you very much. It means the world, man. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Well, guys, this was the latest episode of the Creator Hour. Once again, my guest was Possible Chairs, Aaron Schroeder. We had a lot of fun today. Make sure to check this out next Wednesday at 8 p.m. on the Sports Fluent Network. And once again, I just want to thank everybody that was able to stop by and say hello and follow Possible Chairs anywhere you can. This has been Hoop Social on the Creator Hour, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.